Wondering what the next great move is in real estate? I got my buddy Chris Kelly, the Executive Vice President for Home Services of America. We're going to talk about exactly what you should be focused on right now to take your business to the next level. You know, Chris, this is a conversation I'm excited that you and I have had, and you've kind of been sharing with some people about kind of what the industry, where are we in the industry, and what are we seeing as far as the value of certain skills, certain things that we do, or certain things that we develop.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's give us a little background and history of kind of what we're talking about and kind of where you see us right now.
Yeah. So every half century, we go through a change of like what is the predominant worker in the world. And if we go back a couple hundred years, the primary worker was an agrarian worker out in the field doing those types of things. And then we went through the first and second industrial revolution. Yeah. And really what we became the most prominent worker was the skill worker, right. The person that could do things with their hands. They were doers. Mm-hmm. And then we went through, and that was really for about 100 years we saw that. And then in the 60s and 70s, we went through the IT transformation, and Peter Drucker coined the term the knowledge worker.
Right.
And even up until now, if you look around, the predominant worker in the world or in the US is what's the knowledge worker. So it's not what I'm doing with my hands anymore, because we have machinery to do that, we have computers do that, but it's the knowledge that I bring to my job, overseeing others and their tasks and things like that. But we're about to transition out of that as well too. I think that some of us have seen ChatGPT and some of these other AI technologies, and they are doing things faster from a knowledge base than we can do as a human. They say the average human's brain capacity could fit on a thumb drive.
Right.
And then Moore's law says that computer power doubles in capacity every 2 years. Well, my brain's not doing that.
Right.
I'm going down at this point. And so what's the next stage in the worker? What is going to be next? And what we find is that it's the relationship worker. Mm-hmm. And so it reminds me of the Maya Angelou quote that we've all heard over the years, which is, they won't remember what you did, they won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you feel. So what you did as a real estate professional is, I arranged inspections and I drove them around and showed them houses. Well, the arranging the inspections, if you've seen Google Duplex, there's an AI system who's going to make that phone call, and the person on the other line has no idea they're talking to a machine at that point. But that all got taken care of for you. The knowledge, right? Oh, I knew the comps, and I knew this, and I knew that, and I brought that knowledge. That knowledge is all available, through AI. Is at some point will be much more prevalent. You won't have to write a listing description ever again. I'll just do it for you. But the relationship work side of it, that's the last part of that quote is how you made them feel. That's the relationship side of it. Right. And the great thing is, I think, as real estate agents, we are already, that's kind of already our bread and basket. It's our superpower. Right. And we're gonna really need to lean into that over the next decade, lean into that superpower that you had. And I always joke, if your superpower was flying, how much of your day would you spend flying? 90% of it, probably? Right, yeah. So if your superpower is relationships, that's what you gotta be spending most of your time doing.
Yeah, I think it's almost like that's a natural cycle for an agent too. When agents first start, a lot of times, they feel like they've gotta go do stuff. They've gotta go make things happen. They've gotta do certain things. And then obviously they've gotta know the knowledge. They've gotta learn it. They've gotta be able to do those things. It's a part of the process.
Correct.
But ultimately, those agents that are going to succeed, it is all about that ability to be memorable, to add value in a way that you make them feel like they can trust you.
Right.
You earn that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Where should we be focused, agents really be focusing right now? Because obviously, this is something that, like you say, we've been focusing on to a certain extent, but I think it only gets more important going forward.
Yeah.
So where would you say that agents should be focusing right now?
Yeah, I think over the last couple of years, you could be transactionally focused and still do pretty well, because there was just so much demand that's out there. As we go into what would be a normalized market, the type of demand that you typically see, and you mentioned it before, the stat that everyone has heard from NAR about, the frequency in which consumers would reuse their same realtor, but then they don't because they never heard from them again. Right. That's the transactional based person, and they think, man, I did everything right. I showed them houses, I had all the knowledge, but then you didn't do anything to feed into the relationship.
That's right.
So I know the last couple of years, most of us in this business were just trying to keep our head above water, and we didn't have time. Like, I would love to go back into my client base and clean that up and reach out to people, but I've just been so busy. Well, now we have the time to do that. And so where I would say spend your time is leaning back into all of those clients that have made you successful over the years, and reach out to them and do the thing that you always ask me when you and I talk on the phone is, hey, is there anything I can do for you? It's such a powerful question, and it's an easy, I don't know what I would say to my clients when I call them. What can I do for you? You need anything from me? Oftentimes they're going to say no, but they're going to really appreciate you reached out. But sometimes they're going to say, yeah, I actually have a question about something, or I have a neighbor who has a question about, love to help.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what the time that we have a little bit more on our hands right now, because we're not just running at full speed because there's so much happening in the marketplace. We're still busy, but that time you've gotten back from transactions, lean into the relationship side of it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think as I watch, the difference between good agents, great agents, there is that time when they finally realize that. They understand that that's the process. And there is a way to systemize some of this.
Sure.
So from that standpoint, I think if you're not purposeful on making that, we all talk about that hey, we're in the relationship business. And what I always tell people is if that's the case, then relationships, that ought to be your main focus.
Yeah.
You ought to be in the business of building relationships.
Right.
And so having those follow-up plans for those past clients, having those literally in your schedule where you're following up with those folks, having something where you're doing a client appreciation, those things are creating a sense of community where people are belonging to something that's bigger than them.
Correct.
All of those things are the things that we're seeing the great agents do right now. They've done it in the past, but now more than ever, it's going to be extremely important. And I will say this, there are a lot of agents that are out there that are like, maybe they're newer in the business, or they're like, oh, gosh, I'm relatively new in the business. I don't have all this. The good news is that in our statistic of over 90% of the people saying they would do business with them, and then only 25% actually doing business with those folks, because other agents aren't doing this, right now is an opportunity to really stand out.
Yeah.
And so take those folks. We used to call them orphan clients, people that got out of the business. There's going to be a lot of people that this market, agents that were in this business that just don't make the transition to this. They stay transactional. Notice where those folks are. Build relationships with some of those folks as well, where you're at a place where they know that they can trust turning those people off that they maybe had some relationships with, but it just didn't work out.
Right.
Focus on those things. I think that's the biggest thing right now is start becoming a student of relationships.
Yeah.
Student of understanding how to add value to people. Because those are the things, like you say, that people are going to remember. If you were out there and you were meeting with agents, because I know you're doing it all over right now, if you were talking to agents right now, what's the biggest thing you're telling them right now to stay focused on?
So I think we often hear about the term time management. Like, I don't have time for all this. I think the better way to frame, and this works in my mind, when I think I'm too busy for something, instead of thinking about time management, I say it's choice management. Because every decision we make with time is a choice. And I recently read the book, Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, and I had a chance to see him speak as well. And he talks about track your time for a week and see if your values, like if someone asks you, like, what are your values? What do you do every week? What is important to you? And you said, oh, my family, my work, and my clients. Then track your time for a week, and really, is your time devoted to that? Or were you kind of scrolling online and, I got caught up in some reels and all of a sudden I watched 2 hours of reels. So to me, what I'm telling them is be conscious with your choices, because you actually do have the time every single day if you are deliberate, you said, make a system out of it, deliberate, and when you're doing it, we all have an hour or two every day to reach out to those clients, to reach out to the people that we want to help so that they think of us when they need help. There's time in the day, so choice management versus time management.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, everybody is afraid of the phone, but that first one is the hardest one. Once you do it and people are like, hey, it's great to hear from you. They really do want to hear from us.
Yeah.
And so it's something that in reality, once you start building the momentum in it, it just continues and continues.
And I don't know, the fear is like, I'm going to call and someone's going to have a problem. Like, I don't want to hear, what if they have a problem with the house I sold them? Solve the problem.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. The best thing that can happen is they say, I'm struggling with this. And you solve it, now it's absolutely done. Yeah. And this keeping the diary is so huge.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up, because that's what I always encourage people. It goes back, I can't remember who it was that told me this, but they said, listen, anything you inspect, you can expect for it to get better. And it's really true when you start breaking that down. I was, in the health journey, you've always got these things, and we're trying these things. And I had this one week where I had to write down all my food before I ate it.
Yeah.
And boy, you start thinking and realizing, whoa.
The mindlessness of doing this.
Yes.
Also, the mindlessness of eating is also the mindlessness of sometimes how we spend our day. Yeah.
The biggest thing, I had one agent came in and told me this after I suggested they keep a diary, came in and said, I did not realize how few conversations I was having every day. How much of just busy work. Or I would get ready to make a call and I would say, but I got to make sure I get this post on social media. Listen, there's certain things that are important, but the conversations, the relationships is the bottom line. You want to wrap us up? Anything else?
I think the last thing I say is I would say don't be fearful of some of this technology that's coming. There was a point in time when the internet was first out, that we thought this was going to be the end of the real estate professional because of what was available on the internet. More people today use real estate professionals and transactions than prior to the internet. Zillow, for example, came out. More people use real estate professionals today than even when Zillow came out. It's not the availability of the data, it's the relationship where someone actually interprets it and makes it of use to you. So don't be afraid of what's coming. Embrace it, lean into the relationships, and we'll be great.
Yeah. Really appreciate all you do for the
Thanks,
industry. For me personally, too.
Likewise.
Appreciate that.
Likewise.
Listen, reach out to Chris. I know you got some value here. Let him know how much you appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.